I want to welcome the GMs and the wives, the godly men and the warm, inviting, feminine, empathetic women out there. My name is Thaddeus, and this is the Regal Change YouTube channel, and I want to talk about today how God is not disappointing you, that you're actually just worrying too much and overthinking too much, and you're probably also just opening satanic doors as well. This is one of the reasons why we can feel this existential dread or the existential threat of reality just bearing down upon us sometimes. Sometimes we're just so smart that we're too smart for our own good. See, as human beings, we have to understand the layers of consciousness. There is the personal conscious, there's the personal unconscious, then there's the personal collective unconscious, where you're actually participating in the act of understanding the collective unconscious. Then there's the personal collective consciousness, where you have the understanding of the consciousness that we all share personally. But then you have the totality of collective unconsciousness, the totality of consciousness, and then cosmic consciousness and unconsciousness all together. Now, this is where a lot of people may misinterpret or misunderstand what I'm really saying here and why this is important. Because in order to understand the levels of the degree in which we are actually operating as a living organism, as a life force altogether, because that's really what we are. This is one of the reasons why I have reverence for all of life. But I do not unconditionally give my time to anybody that does not value it. I will give and I will pour my spirit into people that have nothing to give back to me. And the reason being is because I know that ultimately bringing about wisdom and truth and speaking the truth and spirit into existence is going to just be a little mustard seed, right? For anybody that has ears to hear and eyes to see. And so in reality, you're actually really helping yourself. And there's a really good line in the Beatles song, The End is what it's called. And it says that the love that you take is equal to the love that you make. And a lot of people may not like the Beatles or anything like that. And I understand why you may not like them, but just taking the lyrics as themselves for what it is and what they are, those lyrics in themselves are very powerful because they automatically go to show that you get out of life what you are able to put into it. And sometimes what you think is on your plan is not going to be what's best for God's plan. And ultimately, God's plan is going to come before your plan. And the reason being is because God's will is way stronger than yours, buddy. Believe me, I tried. Believe me, I tried. And I've also opened up demonic doors or satanic doors that I didn't even know I was opening up. But, I had a business opportunity recently to align with another person, an entrepreneur in my community. And he told me at one point in the conversation that he's a professional door opener. And, I was thinking about that in retrospect because he was, claiming to open doors for people, open opportunities for people. And what he was really doing was using the truth to tell lies. And I could sense it in that moment because I could think, what is this guy really up to? And unfortunately, this is the name of the game for the modern day and age of capitalism. Capitalism, I do not actually disagree with as a whole, and I don't necessarily want to get into politics, but it does relate to what I'm talking about here. You see, sometimes people use tools to do bad things. Sometimes people use the same tools to do good things. My goal is to use the tool of technology and information for the good, the beautiful, and the true. And here's the thing, I'm not going to force you into believing anything that I have to say or even listening to what I have to say. But what I would not like for anybody to do is to ignore anything that I have to say or anything that I have to do. The reason being is because ultimately we all want to be heard, we all want to be seen, and this is not like a narcissistic point of view here. This is a spiritual perspective saying that it is your right as an individual to be heard. Whether or not you are actually listened to is another story. But you are, as a human individual, you have the right to be heard. This is one of the reasons why democracy at its core is supposed to be so fundamentally good, and the idea of democracy is good. It's because ultimately what the Greeks thought would be that if everybody was using their logos to vote, well, then you'd have a collective divine logistical perspective and pursuit in which was going to produce the most benefit for the society and the cities altogether. Good in theory, but in practice, as Socrates said, it's actually second worst to tyranny. Tyranny is the only thing worse than democracy, according to Socrates, and I am beginning to think that that's true. But you see, capitalism at its core is a free market, and that's what it's supposed to be. However, there are people that will try to take advantage, like anybody that's seen The Wolf of Wall Street. When Matthew McConaughey is talking to Leonardo DiCaprio, is it DiCaprio? Yeah, DiCaprio. And he's telling him about the stocker brokerage firm and like the name of the game is fuck the clients. What we're going to be doing is move the client's money from their pocket into our pocket. That's the only thing that matters. That's the bottom line. Unfortunately, that's how a lot of people think nowadays. But there are still a lot of good people that want to provide an actual service, that want to provide an actually want to help people, right? Because ultimately that's what you're doing whenever you have any kind of entrepreneurship or business in general. Even if you don't have an entrepreneurship or a business, what you're doing, no matter who you are and what you're up to, you're helping people solve some kind of problem, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing. There'd be no problems to solve. And you see, the greater that we grow on our spiritual journey, the more that we're going to have certain kinds of challenges faced that seem to be why is this happening? I made sure all my ducks were in a row. I made sure everything this, I made sure everything that. And yet this still is happening? Like, what the hell? Why, God? Why? That's what some people think, right? Well, those people are losers. And if you have that kind of mindset, I highly suggest that you frame your mindset a different way. And the reason being is not because I'm trying to be an a-hole. It's just because the fact of the matter is that having that mindset will not get you anywhere. That's it. That is the bottom line, right? So what kind of mindset do you need to develop? You need to develop a relentless mindset by discipline. Discipline is going to be the key to get you from any point A to point B. But first you have to have a destination. If you don't have a destination, you might as well not even step foot on the journey, right? But then again, life is a paradox. Life is about the journey, but you need a destination in order to have the journey. Well, that's kind of strange. Well, that's life for you. Life is a paradox. But you see, God doesn't want you to think too heavily on the journey or think too heavily on the destination. Every single moment that you have is the only moment that you have. When I say that the future doesn't really exist or the past doesn't really exist, it's not that I'm saying that it doesn't really exist, because it does. But at the same time, you have to act as if it doesn't. This is where you need to have like a third person perspective of your life if you're actually going to get to the place that you want to get. You have to recognize the challenges of today and not overthink it. Like overthinking and overanalyzing, that used to be one of my biggest impediments on the spiritual path, you could say. And the reason that that was one of my biggest impediments is because, and hindrances, because I was someone that very much valued my logic and my intellect. I very much valued being in my mind and being able to think things through. But the problem is that sometimes I thought too much and so much that it actually deterred me from actually getting any shit done. So what do you do then? You have to just act sometimes and trust that it's okay if it's not going to be perfect, because that was another thing that I was raised to be, as a perfectionist. You know, in order to grow up in the household that I was in, I had to be a professionalist and a perfectionist, even just to get seen by the people that I would say my caretakers would be the most appropriate term. By my caretakers, in order to just get seen or heard, I had to be perfect in everything that I did. And if I wasn't, then I wasn't going to be able to get any kind of attention or validation from them. So I learned growing up that if I'm not a perfectionist, I might as well not even try. If I'm not perfect, I might as well not even try. I have completely dismissed that mindset nowadays. That is not my mindset in any way, shape, or form now. I will always try something just to try it if it's going to get me experience, if it's going to get me understanding, wisdom, and if it's going to increase my faith overall. If I'm going to have those four qualities in anything I'm doing, I'm going to try it. And if it's not like hurting my well-being physically and mentally or spiritually or anybody else's, I'm going to try it. This is what so many people don't understand about like just business in general nowadays. People are so focused on just the taking the money, the taking the this, the taking them that. And don't get me wrong, as a man specifically, you have to be able to force your way to success one way or another. If you don't know how to do that, then you're not really getting the job done. Okay? So what do you do in this situation? How do you move forward when you need to do something but you don't know what to do and the overthinking is just causing it to go crazy? You've got to close those demonic doors. Number one, any kind of demonic doors that you've opened, whether consciously or unconsciously, if you've let the devil in, that's on you. That's on you. And the reason being is because you were either too naive or too pessimistic or nihilistic, or perhaps even the complete opposite, too optimistic about how things were going to go and how things were going to play out. So to finish off this story with this guy, this entrepreneur guy that I was talking about briefly earlier, when he told me that he was a professional door opener, my whole intuition said, take note of that. Okay, I'll take note of that. And it turned out to be that, yeah, he was just trying to, he was just trying to use other entrepreneurs. It was clear. It was clear. Like, I wasn't the only person that he was trying to use, but fortunately I saw through it pretty quickly. I started to recognize, okay, this isn't exactly what's actually going on. Even though, because I'm like walking away from the situation, and even though everything that was said was like awesome and inspiring, motivational, etc., I walked away from the conversation altogether and I thought, man, I feel more cloudy after that conversation than clear-headed. And this is another thing that be mindful of. be mindful of. It's not necessarily that, because some of the things that I say might confuse you. And I don't do this to confuse you. I do this to bring clarity to the situation. But our society has gotten so used to confusion that somebody that brings clarity can sometimes be confusing. So it's like, I'm just going to speak directly from here on out, and whether it resonates with you or not, that's up to you and your spirit. That's up to you. But ultimately, guys, to close out this message overall, close the demonic doors. When you notice that you're overthinking, start to change your actual physiology. Get in a cold shower, or go to the sauna. Go work out. Go out in the sunshine or in the cold, whatever you need to do, like go for a walk. Change your physiology, and that will put you in a different kind of state of mind. It's really as simple as that. Life doesn't need to be so complicated, and yet we make it complicated because we want we want to have a problem to solve. But sometimes we make things so complicated that we can never solve them, but we like that we can never solve them, so then we stay stuck instead of actually progressing. So God is not disappointed in you and God is not disappointing you. What's actually happening is you're not actually putting the work into your faith. You're not actually putting your money where your mouth is, so to speak. So how do you do that? You've got to invest in yourself and close those damn demonic doors. With that being said, peace be with you. Till next time.